Behold, the body born of dust. How perfect it has become. Why should you fear its end? When were you ever made less by dying? When you pass beyond this human form, no doubt you will become an angel and soar through the heavens. But don't stop there. Even heavenly bodies grow old. Pass again from the heavenly realm and plunge into the ocean of consciousness. Let the drop of water that is you become 100 mighty seas. But do not think that the drop alone becomes the ocean. The ocean, too, becomes the drop. Hello, my name is Cody. Welcome to the Unifying Field podcast, where we journey beyond the black and white into the vast spectrum of human experience. Here we explore the great question of why we are here, seeking wisdom in all traditions and unity in our diversity. My mission is to bridge worlds, uniting hearts and minds through conversation, curiosity, and the shared wonder of existence. So take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mind and join me as we step into the infinite together. You find yourself seated beside many people you know and love. Everyone is dressed in their finest. You hear people whispering among themselves, reflecting. Some are crying, others are holding back tears. Kids are in the back playing, and parents are trying to keep them quiet and respectful. At the front of the room is someone offering words of remembrance and hope for the person who departed, as well as for their loved ones who remain. Everyone seems unsure of how the future will continue on without them. This is a new world they have entered. Someone next to you asks you how you knew the person in the casket. You look at them puzzled because you don't know who the funeral service is for. Everyone is given the chance to head to the front and pay their respects, and you fall in line. You see people getting choked up as they say a few final words to them. As you make your way to the front, you begin to recognize that it is you. Death is like a thief in the night. It comes to take away all that you love and leaves you with a hole through your heart where you held that person. For those of us who have lost loved ones, the pain is immense, and we are left feeling small and broken. Even if we know they are in a better place and are no longer suffering, it still hurts like hell. And if you are in that place right now, I am so sorry. You are not alone. I want to dedicate this episode to my Grandma Sue, who passed away on September 5th. Being in the hospital watching her suffer was unbearable. It wasn't fair for a good person to be going through what she was going through. She didn't know why she was there at the hospital. Confusion had set in for the long haul, and she was scared. Our hearts were breaking as we tried to comfort her and assure her that everything would be okay. We thought that she had some time left, even with the newly discovered tumor in her heart. But we didn't know that God was calling for her to come home now. None of us, not my grandma, nor my family, were ready for this. As the hours and days clicked by, we watched my grandma decline as her body was shutting down. And my family and I shared many moments of falling apart into waves of tears due to the realization of what was coming. But the heartbreaking reality was that death doesn't wait on those who aren't ready. When it comes, it is swift and relentless until its mission is complete. Thankfully, my grandma was given some peace when she made it to the hospice facility. Having been a regular hospice volunteer, I am a huge supporter of their mission to provide comfort, quality of life, and dignity for those who are facing the end of their lives. Sitting with her for the last week has put me face to face with the last thing that anyone wants to think about: death. But it has also brought a family together to support each other through these difficult times and to treasure every single second that we got to spend with my grandma and each other. Today I want to focus on something most of us try our best to avoid, something that we deny until we are staring at it face to face in the most unexpected moment. I want to help you find meaning in death. For all we know, Our existence began when we first entered this world, and thus we don't have a frame of reference for what came before this life and what will come after. If we existed before, most of us don't remember. While I feel like death will be like waking up from a dream, there is still a lingering uncertainty to it, and it is tough to swallow the fear of the unknown. But the truth is, we must all face death sooner or later, because unfortunately, to live in this world means you will lose people you love, and one day you will lose your own physical life. I've heard many people say that they are not afraid of death. I feel like if we are honest with ourselves, we see there is at least a little fear of the unknown that goes with it. Fear of not being remembered, or being remembered for something not so good. Some people want to ensure their family name continues on as their legacy. Others might want to be rich and famous and remembered for that. Others go out as the infamous so-and-so in some awful crime. There's fear in how we leave this earth. Will it be painful or peaceful when we go? Did we live a good enough life to make it to heaven and avoid the hell from our faith? Having not experienced death, you might maintain the fear of no longer existing when you die, so that when your physical body dies, everything dies. There's even fear from the perspective of our loved ones. Do they have to go through this huge life process afraid and alone? Or are there friends and family who have gone before them, ready to guide them to the other side? How can we go on with life without this person here with us? There's so many ways that fear can show up for us. I wonder if this is part of our programming, part of our animal survival instincts. If we weren't at least a little afraid of dying, then we might live a little too recklessly. Whereas with our pre-programmed survival instincts, though they may bring us down at times, they are designed to keep us alive. If you were alive in the dinosaur times, for example, it would be helpful to have something inside you saying, be afraid of that giant reptile thing with teeth, or else you might become its lunch. I want to return to your funeral service. If you remember, you were in line waiting to pay your respects to the person in the coffin. Then you saw that it was you. What do you feel when you see yourself lying there? What were people saying about you during the service? What kind of impact did you have on people's lives? Did you have any regrets that you wish you could have made right? After everyone is done paying their respects, the pallbearers carry the casket to the hearse, and then everyone heads to their cars and follows the hearse to the graveyard. A few more comforting words are spoken, and then the casket is lowered into the grave, your physical body's final resting place. The grave is filled in with dirt, and your body forever becomes part of the earth. A memorial gravestone is placed at the head, and eventually grass grows where there was once loose dirt. Over the years to come, your loved ones will learn to live without you. The nature of the physical world is such that we must work to survive, and eventually our loved ones who have passed have become memories. We carry them with us as far as we can and think of them in beautiful moments that remind us of them. But one day, there will be generations beyond us, like our kids, grandchildren, who may have never met us. And as these bodies that were once ours break down into their original elements, absorbed back into the earth to feed whatever Mother Nature needs it for, so too your memory slowly fades back into the earth. But there is meaning to death. It is not defined by loss. It is a reminder to cherish the people and animals we love and to live a life more consciously and mindful of our mortality. Death is a part of life that connects all of us. Though our souls may be invincible, to be born into this world requires that we dwell in bodies that follow the cycle of physical life. First we are born, then we grow, next we reproduce, or not, then we age, and finally, we die. What I walked you through was kind of like the ancient charnel ground meditation of Buddhism. It is known as Maranasati, or mindfulness of death. This is a very unique meditation in which you either go to the charnel grounds, where dead bodies are laying on top of the ground, waiting for nature to claim their resources, or you visualize this in your mind. What you focus on is the body laid out before you being your own, and you watch it slowly decay and disintegrate as the bugs, land, and animals gain nourishment from it. As you work your way through it, eventually there lies nothing but perhaps the dust from what is left of your remains, and even then the winds blow through and spread what was left into the air and across the land. I know it sounds a bit grotesque, but it is not without significance. If we live in such a way that acknowledges that we will one day no longer exist as these bodies, we might live a little more consciously. You might smile a little more. You might be a little kinder to others. You might even be a little less hard on yourself and others. Perhaps in the hustle of life, you might spend more time with your friends and family members, because you learn to acknowledge the impermanence of this body we inhabit, and we acknowledge the impermanence of the bodies of everyone else. And thus, we can more easily release the hold of grudges and hatred in our hearts for the mistakes of others, especially minor offenses, because they too hold on to impermanent, imperfect bodies. Ignorance doesn't help you escape the truth of death. Acknowledgement of impermanence provides freedom to live a fuller life with greater meaning. If granted time to know that you are dying, would there be any regrets on the table of what you could have done? Contemplating your own impermanence from time to time helps you live in such a way that you remove the need to have regrets when your time comes. It encourages you to stop putting things off for tomorrow that you know you should do today, because none of us is promised tomorrow. We don't even have today, or even this hour. All we have is this moment. Hi. Hello. Yes, I am talking to you. Where are you now? Are you in here in this moment with me? Or are you lost in the past or the future? Where are you going? Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When we return to our breathing, we return to the present moment, our true home. There's no need for us to struggle to arrive somewhere else. We know our final destination is the cemetery. Why are we in a hurry to get there? Why not step in the direction of life, which is in the present moment? When you walk, arrive with every step." Don't mistake the destination for the part that has meaning. The destination, like achieving the concept of happiness, for example, is fleeting. The moment you achieve the destination, it is gone. Instead, embrace the journey, and you will always be at the destination, finding meaning in every step. If you must make amends, do it now. You have heard the song many times that goes, "We are not promised tomorrow." If the person you need to make amends with has already passed, make those amends now by speaking to them, either in your mind or out loud. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you have made throughout your life. Be better than you were yesterday. The mistakes you made in the past shouldn't hold you down. Let what you learned provide guidance in order for you to do better today. What about the future? Setting and chasing goals is great. It helps us continually improve, which I think is an important part of why we come to Earth in the first place. But don't forget to stop and find meaning at your current point in the journey. As I said, the destination is fleeting. Enjoy the journey. What about the afterlife? If you were on your deathbed today, have you lived a life that prepared you for the place you are hoping to go? For those of you that are trying to get to heaven, are there things about your life that you should change to get there? If you believe in reincarnation, have you lived in such a way that prepares you for a good reincarnation? We all know that not everyone gets the opportunity to make things right at the end of their lives. Many people's lives get cut way too short without any warning. Those are the people I worry about the most, as they didn't get the opportunity to right any wrongs. By spending some time contemplating our impermanence, we can begin living in such a way that enables us to leave this world at any moment, knowing that we lived without having to question if we could have done better. Of course, we can always do better. But doing our best, to me, is good enough. We can always have more experiences, see more places, and acquire more things in our lifetimes. But how often are the places and things in our lives more important than the people and animals? If we live in such a way that focuses on quality time and experiences with them, who cares about anything else we could achieve? We can't take money or things with us, but we can take our love with us. Next, I want to focus on doing meaningful things in the world. If you listened to the previous episode, you might recall that I mentioned volunteering in hospice as part of my spiritual path. I was inspired to do that by a combination of stories from Mother Teresa, Ram Dass, and Stephen Levine. I wanted to do something meaningful out in the world that was outside of doing good for my family. Hospice was definitely a unique idea. The end of life is not usually a happy subject. My story in hospice began with a desire to be in the presence of the truth that Ram Dass spoke of, as well as learning to keep my heart open in hell, which he also spoke of. Typically, anyone coming through our doors is dealing with some heavy pain and emotions. But I noticed, even during my volunteer training, that many of the volunteers had loved ones who were taken care of by this hospice. I thought, wow, that is awesome to have a place take such good care of your family member that you want to be a part of that organization. I determined in that volunteer training that I wanted to work there, and a few months later, I would. What I experienced was countless people with huge hearts, braving the pain and suffering to enable the best possible quality of life for the hospice patients, and even the family members of those patients. Being a veteran and a volunteer, I would sometimes find myself working, fixing computers as part of the IT department, when a social worker or nurse would come find me to present last-minute veteran honors to someone who is actively dying. With tears in my eyes, I would honor them and show their family members who were present how thankful we are for their loved one. I didn't tell you that story to feed my ego by saying, look how awesome I am. I don't believe I did anything at all except work on myself every day at home so that when I showed up for my patients, I was the best possible version of myself for them on that day. I say that to hopefully inspire you to do something good in the world. If you have a big heart and want to make a difference in people's lives, I invite you to volunteer at your local hospice. It is really hard, but what you gain from that work is much, much greater. The hospice mission is beautiful. Hospice is not a place that signifies giving up hope. It is a place to give people dealing with end of life the best possible life they can have. After a year of volunteering with hospice patients, I have made several interesting observations. Perhaps the most dramatic is that each person will fall somewhere in the spectrum of the 5 stages of grief. After all, there is a lot of emotion attached to the idea of loss. The 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial means that the person denies the circumstances that has caused this grief. Upon accepting what is coming, a person might have anger for the situation they are in. They may even try to blame others for their situation. Bargaining refers to when a person tries to make a deal with a higher power that they will live a better life if they will help them get better. Depression is thus sadness and perhaps hopelessness for the circumstances they have been dealt to them. And finally, acceptance is simply accepting the circumstances of what is, and then continuing on in whatever way is possible. The stages of grief do not follow any strict time periods or order, and people experiencing this will traverse in whatever order and time frame is necessary, while even reverting back to previous steps. This is natural, and grief will run its course in whatever way it needs to, as it cannot be forced. Though my hospice patients wouldn't express this to me verbally, and you certainly don't ask, you pick up on this with your interactions with people through time. Some have been in denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, which is completely understandable, but the most intriguing stage I've witnessed was that of acceptance. The easiest way for me to describe this is a beautiful peacefulness about the person. Even while their family members were around and clearly in pain, I would almost describe a kind of lightness about the patient that seemed ready for whatever was next. This fascinated me. While it seemed fine in theory, I guess that I never thought that such a stage as acceptance would be realistic in practice. For my typical weekly visits, I would often read to my patients. One of the realities of growing old is that our bodies stop working like they used to. It becomes too difficult to even hold a book, and our eyesight fades. Some people enjoyed me reading the Bible. Others wanted me to read articles, or the mail and email, or even notebooks of thousands of quotes they had written down over the last 90 years. Reading aloud is something I found that I really enjoy, whether to my daughters or to my hospice friends. I began to shift my awareness just a little as I read, and noticed that there were two souls sitting next to each other. One of them was getting ready to shed its old, worn-out body, and the other had a little more physical life ahead of it. It was really beautiful. This was yet another moment where I found that we are all made of the same stuff. Another moment where each of us is connected. We are all just souls walking around in these physical avatars for a brief time, and then we move on to whatever is next. But even if we are to believe ideas like that, they are only comforting in theory. In practice, it is not so easy. But that is where you can find strength in family and friends. In the old times, and likely for a lot of the world, death was something shared by the family. People weren't sent away to a hospital to die alone, as if death was a disease. People died at home. This is something that hospice supports. While there is limited inpatient capabilities, primarily for temporary respite needs, hospice is primarily focused with patients being cared for at home. Respite means giving the family members who are beyond exhausted from taking care of their loved ones 24/7 some time for themselves. Respite can be used for a number of reasons, such as the caregivers need a break and some time to take care of things they've had to neglect, or the patient is having too many problems at home and solutions would be easier to find with the full medical team, and so on. But otherwise, the majority of hospice patients are at home or in some sort of assisted living or nursing home facility. But regardless, wherever the dying person is residing, they should have the ones they love around them. Being a part of the No One Dies Alone program, it is one of the most special things I've had the privilege to be a part of. Sitting with someone who is actively passing away is a unique experience, especially when you are there because they have no one else. When I'm performing a veteran honor ceremony in front of a dying veteran and their family, it makes me cry. And though I am sad for those people who are about to lose their husband and dad, I find happiness in seeing their loved ones by their side to the very end. Sitting with the dying who have no one, it is painful and heartbreaking. But it is worth enduring the pain because death is a community event. Now don't get me wrong. There are some who prefer to die alone for whatever reason, but a lot of people find comfort in the love of their people being with them as they work through whatever they need to work through to let go of this world. So I absolutely recommend sitting with your loved ones as much as you can through the process. Dying is not a disease we must hide from. It is a graduation from a completed physical life. And as with any other major life event, the support of friends and family is a beautiful thing. It's beautiful because you are there for your loved one, but it is also beautiful in the time spent with others grieving the loss. This is an extremely meaningful time that can be shared by reminiscing about stories, comforting each other as each of you breaks down into tears, and telling your loved one whatever needs to be said. And even more, it's a confirmation to those hurting the most that, hey, I know this is so hard and that there is so much uncertainty about the future, but we are here with you and will help you get through this. We've got you. What I've been discussing up until this point has of course been about living people showing up for the dying. But what about on the other side? One of the most comforting things I've ever heard about dying is that we are never alone when we are close to leaving this world. I think one of the scary things for us who are still living is the idea that they are having to cross over alone, something that seems downright scary because it's not something we can really wrap our minds around. But I have heard countless comforting stories where people had family members who had gone before them, surround them, comfort them, and guide them through the process of crossing over into whatever is next. So rest easy, my friends. I am confident that we don't have to cross over by ourselves. Even my grandma said she could see her mom and dad with her. It doesn't make losing the people we love hurt any less, but we may rest easy knowing that they are in good hands. Nothing can fill the hole that is left behind in our hearts where our loved ones once were. There is no way to make it hurt any less. Just like with those who are dealing with grief, who have learned they are dying, we too have to battle the 5 stages of grief for being the ones losing them. Grief runs its course within us the same way. The struggle of happy moments, where we are laughing, to a moment of remembering the reality of our loss that brings you into helpless submission and tears. We can believe they are going to a better place, free from suffering, but we will still suffer from losing them and endure the roller coaster of grief. For those who are mourning, I would like to offer words of encouragement and hope. Love transcends death. You need only to think of your loved one to bring them into your presence. When I close my eyes, I can see my grandma. I can hear her voice in my mind, her sweet southern accent saying, "Hi, sweetie." She is no farther away than the time it takes me to think of her. It is not the same as her physically being here, I know, but it is something just as real and meaningful because it is all we have. I want to read a quote by the Indian saint Ramana Maharshi at the end of his life. He was dying of cancer and his followers wanted him to get treatment so that he could continue living with them. They were attached to his physical being, which is understandable, but they missed the point of his teaching. And Ramana Maharshi responded to them, "No. It is time for me to drop this body." His followers started to cry. They begged him, "Don't leave us, don't leave us." And he looked at them with confusion and said, "Don't be silly. Where could I possibly go?" The nature of being a part of this world is that we become attached to the physical aspects of it, which of course includes the people and animals we love. We struggle to comprehend the spiritual world because typically it is not something we are able to experience, given the limited physical senses we hold. In a different story, there was an enlightened Buddhist monk who is known to have transcended worldly attachments and suffering. He gave his students a shock when they found him in tears after the death of his friend. Their teacher, who was the embodiment of tranquility and whom had taught the students that the nature of all things is impermanence, was weeping, despite understanding the truth that he had taught them. He sat hunched over, his body shaking with profound grief, tears streaming down his face and soaking the front of his robes. When questioned about why he was crying, the teacher said, "Death is an illusion, but the death of one's son, the death of one's closest companion, this is the greatest illusion of all." The teacher continued softly, "To believe that one can have true compassion and still remain untouched by the sorrow of others is the greatest error. Enlightenment does not make one a stranger to grief. It makes one fully present to it. The monk explained, "The crying is not because of an attachment to my son's past form. The crying is because of fully experiencing the reality of this moment, the pain, the emptiness, the sorrow. In this moment, the illusion of my friend's death is powerful, and compassion is boundless. To close the heart to this feeling would be to close the heart to a part of the universe itself." As the younger monks watched, their confusion was replaced by a new, more profound understanding. They realized that true enlightenment is not about suppressing human emotion, but about embracing it fully, without being swept away by it. Their teacher's tears were not a sign of weakness, but of immense capacity for both wisdom and compassion. He could see the illusion of death and still mourn its passage, holding both truths in a heart that was completely open. No one is immune from the pain of loss, not even those who are incredibly spiritually advanced, such as Jesus, the Buddha, and others. To be human means to be a part of a world that experiences both joy and suffering as aspects of the truth. It hurts no matter where you stand. It is not the same to imagine your loved one in your mind as it is to visit with them in person. But now, there will never be distance between you and them. You can talk to them just as you would in their physical form. You can listen for their words. You can carry them in your heart, no matter where you go. This simple truth remains. Love transcends death. Death and dying is not a disease that we must hide from and ignore until it is on our doorstep. Death is a graduation of the spirit from a complete physical life. It is one of the biggest moments in the circle of life. First we are born, we grow up, get married, have babies, grow old, and eventually we die. Unfortunately, we do not get a say when it comes to defining what is considered a complete life. Sometimes people leave abruptly without warning, and thus we are faced with coming to terms with our mortality and living consciously, or staying ignorant and letting life surprise us. Ignorance is not something that protects us from the truth of death. Ignorance hides us from living in truth and encourages us to live more for ourselves than to do good for others. By coming to terms with our own eventual demise, or rather the impermanent nature of the physical world, such as through meditation, volunteer work, or some other way, we may live a more conscious and meaningful life. We may live a life with less hatred, fewer regrets, and grudges against those who have wronged us. There will be fewer things that need to be mended. By living more consciously, we see that every step of the journey was where the most meaning was found. The meaningful was time spent with people and animals, and the destination never really mattered. For all of the heartache we endure as we watch loved ones battle the truth of death, as well as ourselves being confronted with it, we may rest easy knowing that our loved ones don't have to go to the other side alone, and also that love transcends death. And thus, while we may lose the physical presence of someone, they can never leave our side. So don't be so hard on yourself as you do the best you can in life, and be kind to others, knowing that they too are in a finite physical existence. I challenge you to be courageous enough to keep your heart open by sitting by your dying loved one's side, embracing the pain and tears that come with being there. I challenge you to live a life of meaning which includes the understanding of your own impermanence and the acknowledgement that death can call on you and everyone around you at any moment, because death does not wait on those who aren't ready. I want to leave you with a final quote. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear. Thank you for joining me on this journey today with the Unifying Field. We've touched on just a fraction of the vastness that connects us all, but remember, the exploration never ends. Keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and stay curious. As we part ways, may you carry a little more wonder, a little more peace, and a renewed sense of connection with the world around you. Until next time, take a deep breath, question everything, and remember, the infinite is always within reach. Please like and subscribe and share with anyone you think may enjoy this type of content.